Proper loading and unloading procedures are absolutely essential for the safe transportation of hazardous materials. Failing to follow these rules can lead to accidents, spills, fires, and serious health risks. Remember, a significant percentage of hazmat incidents happen during these stationary phases, not while the vehicle is moving. Here are the general loading requirements. Protect hazardous material containers. Always avoid damaging containers when loading or unloading. Do not use hooks, metal tools, or sharp edges that could puncture, tear, or weaken packaging. For example, if you're using a forklift, ensure the forks are positioned carefully to avoid piercing a drum. Secure the vehicle. Set the parking brake before loading or unloading to prevent movement. If you're at a loading dock, also use wheel chocks to prevent the vehicle from rolling away. Keep hazardous materials away from heat. Many hazardous materials become more dangerous when exposed to heat. Always load them away from heat sources like hot engine parts, exhaust pipes, or direct sunlight for prolonged periods, especially for flammable liquids or self-reactive materials. Check for leaks or damage. Leaking containers must never be transported. If you see leaks, damaged packages, or signs of stress on containers, like bulging drums, do not load them. Leaking hazardous materials can endanger you, your vehicle, and others, and can lead to immediate fines. Bracing requirements. Certain hazardous materials must be braced to prevent movement during transport. This means using dunnage, airbags, straps, or wood blocking to fill empty spaces and secure the load. This includes Class 1, explosives, Class 2, gases, Class 3, flammable liquids, Class 4, flammable solids, Class 5, oxidizers, Class 8, corrosives, and Division 6.1, poisons. No smoking. While loading or unloading is a strict rule, smoking is strictly prohibited around the following hazardous materials. Class 1, explosives. Class 2.1, flammable gases. Class 3, flammable liquids. Class 4, flammable solids. And Class 5, oxidizers. This also applies to anyone else in the vicinity. Always keep all sources of fire, sparks, and flames away from hazardous materials. This includes hot work, open flames, or even certain electronic devices that could produce a spark. For securing cargo against movement, containers must be properly secured to prevent falling, sliding, or bouncing during transportation. This means using appropriate tie-downs, straps, or load bars to ensure packages stay put. Be extra careful with containers that have valves or fittings, such as gas cylinders, as they can be damaged easily if they shift. It's crucial that you do not open any hazardous material package during the trip. And never transfer hazardous materials from one package to another while in transit, except when emptying a cargo tank, and that process itself has very specific safety rules. Let's talk about cargo heater rules. Heaters create a fire hazard and must not be used when transporting certain materials, including Class 1, explosives. The heat could cause an unintended detonation. Class 3, flammable liquids. Heat increases the vaporization rate, creating more flammable fumes. And Division 2.1, flammable gases. Similar to flammable liquids, heat can increase pressure and risk of release. Do not load these materials in cargo spaces with heaters unless you are familiar with the specific regulations for indirect heating systems, which are very rare and highly regulated. When in doubt, don't use the heater. For the use of closed cargo spaces, certain hazardous materials must be transported in a closed cargo space and cannot overhang or be carried on a tailgate. This means they must be fully enclosed within the trailer or cargo area. This includes Class 1, explosives, Class 4, flammable solids, and Class 5, oxidizers. There are exceptions. If the packages are fire and water resistant, or if they are covered with a fire and water resistant tarp, they may be transported in an open space. However, always verify this exception with your carrier's policy and the specific regulations for your material. Now, let's look at precautions for specific hazards, starting with explosives class 1. These are some of the most dangerous materials you can transport. Always turn off the engine before loading or unloading explosives. This eliminates a potential source of ignition. Inspect the cargo space thoroughly for sharp objects like bolts, nails, or broken panels that could puncture or damage explosive packages. Even a small spark from friction could be catastrophic. Disable and drain fuel from cargo heaters before loading to prevent any accidental heating. Use a non-metallic or non-ferrous floor lining for Division 1.1, 1.2, or 1.3 explosives Class A or B. This prevents sparks that could occur if metal objects scrape against the floor. And never use hooks, metal tools, or drop packages. Explosives must be handled with extreme care, often hand-carried or moved with non-sparking equipment. Transferring explosives. Do not transfer explosives from one vehicle to another on a public road unless it's an absolute emergency to protect life or property. This is a highly risky operation best done in controlled environments. If a transfer is necessary, set up red warning reflectors, flags, or electric lanterns to alert others and define a safety zone. Never transport damaged explosives or packages showing dampness or oily stains. These are signs of instability or leakage that could lead to an incident. Prohibited vehicle combinations. Do not transport Division 1.1 or 1.2 explosives in a triples or combination vehicle if the other vehicle contains hazardous materials like initiating explosives, Division 1.1A. These are extremely sensitive. Class 7 radioactive materials, labeled Yellow 3, very high levels of radiation. Division 2.3, poison gas, or Division 6.1, poisons, combines explosion risk with toxic release, or hazardous materials in a portable tank or DOT 106A/110A tank. These tanks can hold large quantities, increasing the potential impact of an incident. For corrosive materials, Class 8, these substances, like strong acids or bases, demand extreme care. Hand-loading corrosive liquids. When you are hand-loading breakable containers of corrosive liquids, it's crucial to load them one by one. Always place them right side up and onto a flat, stable surface. This prevents them from tipping over, rolling, or clanking against each other, which could easily cause breakage and a dangerous spill. Imagine handling glass bottles of muriatic acid. You wouldn't just toss them onto the truck. Stacking. You should only stack containers if the lower tiers are explicitly designed to support the weight of the containers placed above them. Overstacking can lead to crushing, container failure, and a major leak. Always check the package markings or your shipping papers for specific stacking instructions. Nitric acid. This is a particularly aggressive corrosive. You must never load nitric acid above other products. The risk of spillage and corrosive damage to the materials below is too great. Additionally, do not stack nitric acid containers more than 2 high. This limits the potential impact in case of container failure and ensures stability. Battery storage. When loading charged batteries, they must always be placed upright. This is essential to prevent any spillage of the corrosive battery acid. Ensure they are secured in such a way that they won't spill or leak during transit, even if the vehicle shifts or brakes suddenly. Think about how a car battery sits firmly in a tray. The same principles apply here for transport. Do not load corrosives near or above. Division 1. 4. Explosives. C-Class 4.1. Flammable solids. Class 5.1. Oxidizers. Division 2.3. Zone B. Poison gases. Do not load corrosives with Division 1.1 or 1.2. Explosives. A Division 2.3. Zone A. Poison gases. Division 4.2. Spontaneously combustible materials. Division 6.1. PGI. Zone A. Poison liquids. Compressed gas. Class 2. If the vehicle does not have racks for holding cylinders, the cargo space must be flat. Cylinders themselves must be upright and secured. For example, imagine a truck bed where gas cylinders are standing up. They must be strapped or chained tightly to the walls or floor of the cargo space to prevent them from tipping over, especially during turns or sudden stops. Laying down, but properly braced. If cylinders are transported horizontally, they need to be chalked or blocked to prevent them from rolling around. Think of wooden blocks placed in front and behind each cylinder to keep it stable. Stored in racks attached to the vehicle. Many vehicles designed for gas transport have custom-built racks that securely hold multiple cylinders. Sometimes, individual cylinders or smaller ones are placed into specialized boxes that have compartments or padding to keep them from shifting or rolling during transit. Never transport containers with interconnections. This means you should not have multiple gas cylinders linked together by hoses or pipes while in transit, unless it's a dedicated manifold system designed for that specific purpose and properly secured. Do not place poison or poison gas materials in the driver's cab, sleeper, or near food products. This is a critical safety rule to prevent accidental exposure to highly toxic substances, protecting both the driver and the public. For instance, a cylinder of chlorine gas should never be in the passenger seat or sleeping compartment. Radioactive materials, Class 7. Special handling rules for radioactive shipments. Some packages of Class 7 radioactive materials are marked with a transport index, or TI, which measures radiation levels. This index gives you a quick idea of the external radiation level. The shipper must label packages as radioactive 2 or radioactive 3 and include the transport index on the label. This classification helps in determining the necessary safety precautions. Transport index limits. Radiation can pass through nearby packages, so the number of radioactive packages that can be transported together is controlled. This is to ensure that the cumulative radiation exposure remains within safe limits. The total transport index of all packages in one vehicle must not exceed 50. For example, if you have 3 packages with transport indexes of 15, 20, and 10, their combined total is 45, which is within the limit. However, if you add another package with a TI of 10, your total would be 55, exceeding the limit, and you would not be able to transport all 4 together. Distance rules for radioactive packages. Class 7 packages must be kept away from people, animals, and unexposed film. This is to minimize radiation exposure. For example, a package with a transport index of 1.1 must be kept at least 2 feet away from people and cargo space walls. This separation distance increases with higher transport index values. Appendix A of the federal regulations outlines the required separation distances based on transport index levels. It's a chart you'll need to consult. Mixed loads. If you are unsure about handling radioactive shipments, consult the shipper or your employer for guidance. Always ask if you have any doubts. It's also crucial to remember that some hazardous materials cannot be transported together. This is due to the risk of dangerous reactions if they were to mix or be exposed to each other, potentially causing fires, explosions, or toxic gas releases. The segregation and separation chart in federal regulations provides a comprehensive list of incompatible materials. This chart is a vital tool for ensuring safety. Figure 7, for example, outlines common examples of materials that must be kept apart. For instance, a strong acid, corrosive class 8, should never be loaded next to a cyanide compound, as a leak could produce highly toxic hydrogen cyanide gas. Similarly, a flammable liquid, class 3, should be segregated from an oxidizer, class 5.1, as the oxidizer could intensify a fire involving the flammable liquid. Before loading, always verify that hazardous materials are compatible with each other to prevent dangerous reactions. This check is a critical part of your pre-trip duties.